really got to try on that left-hand side. What happened?
Oh, but I've gone up and over and bloody head over biscuit. It wasn't enough stability there for myself, but no, I was busting for a bit of meat this game. It didn't seem to work out.
Hello, cheers, and welcome once again to the Scrum of the Earth podcast, the weekly show for news, reviews, great interviews, and so much more, all about the world of rugby. I'm your host, David Lawrence. I'm an American rugby fan who follows the game wherever I can find it all over the globe. If you'd like to get in touch, well, I would love to hear from you. I'm on all the usual socials, and you can just drop a good old-fashioned email to the scrumoftheearth@gmail.com. Well, as you have no doubt deduced, by now, this is not your regular weekly episode, but is in fact yet another bonus episode today. We're thrilled to have a returning guest making his fourth appearance on the show. It's the man behind the scenes at the New England Free Jacks, our beloved general manager, Mr. Tom Kindley. TK, so great to see you. How the heck are you?
Mr. David Lawrence, I'm well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me on. Always love getting in here and seeing the bright lights of your background and the Highlanders flag and your Free Jacks retro kit.
You know, the Highlanders are my original team, but the logo, did the owner's son make that when he was like 7? And he was like, that's good enough. It feels more like it should be on a dad's refrigerator or something, but no offense.
Yeah, it's funny. When you grow up with it, you know no different, do you? But it is sort of somewhat strange. I guess, yeah, the Highlanders Crusaders, they're quite interesting logos, really, the two of them.
Well, I'll take a Highlanders jersey especially over the new Crusaders jersey any day.
Good man.
So looking back, I realized just how much time had gone between our last chats. Really let way too much time go by. So several of the things I want to talk about will, be prefaced with the phrase "last time we spoke." For example, last time we spoke, you told me your family had yet to come to a game in person. Has that changed? Has your family been to Fort Quincy? To be fair, if I was them and I was going to make the trip all the way over here, I might go watch the Free Jacks play in like San Diego or Miami instead.
Yeah, and that's been the reason. No, to answer your question, no, they haven't made it yet, but they are going to be here in about 20 days. And they're going to catch, I believe, maybe at least two games at home. So, really excited for that, and it'll be hilarious to send them into the tailgate and see how they fare with all of our avid fans.
I'm sure they're going to have a great time. And the vibe at Fort Quincy is all positive.
No, that's right. They're thrilled to be getting over. And the reason that they haven't came to date has just been when they're coming all that way, and I'm working all the time. It just hasn't made a huge amount of sense. But this year they're like, no, we're going to be coming to games this year. So that's been really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You teed that up perfectly for me as well. I'm curious. You recently had another great chat with Phil on the Jacks Rangers show. You mentioned that you're somebody who doesn't necessarily crave that much time off. You're somebody who kind of is almost happiest when you're working. So it made me wonder, when you actually go back to visit home, is it hard for you to switch off? I'm picturing one of your brothers being like, "Hey, TK, do you want to go for lunch?" And you being like, "Sorry, I'm getting a flat white with Folau Fakatava. Rain check?"
Yeah, we did. I dragged my wife Darby through this brutal rugby tour of New Zealand last time we were back. We were stopped in at 7 NPC teams, and
wow,
she was probably wondering what she got herself into. But yeah, I find that once I'm out, I'm out. But it takes a lot to get me out. We went on a family trip to Fiji, and it was right around the collegiate draft, and I was all stressed out, and I wasn't too much fun until it was done. And then once it was done, I was all good. But yeah, no, it's a good question. I appreciate your diligence.
Well, I hope you also appreciate my incredible photoshopping skills by pasting a coffee into Folau's hand.
It's amazing.
To be fair, he did just re-sign with the Highlanders, I think, for at least another 2 years. So the flat white will have to wait, I suppose.
Yeah, it's great. His knees must be all right after all, because I don't think he's got ACLs anymore.
I know. This isn't in my script. Have you noticed that players who are known for having long hair, when they cut it, suddenly they're reduced. It's an almost Samson-like thing. There's something biblical happening with rugby players in long hair.
Yeah, well, Eagle, I think Eagle, yeah,
And we haven't seen him on the field yet.
no, so there you go.
Anyway, we're not here to talk grim mysticism. Last time, by the way, the last time we talked, it was so long ago that we were still talking about the demise of the guillotines. But since then, the pendulum has kind of swung back in the other direction. Do you feel like Major League Rugby is in increasingly good health these days?
Yeah, I suppose I've only got the perspective of someone in my position in the organisation, and I'm not privy to all of the conversations that happen on the board level of the league. I think that the overarching consensus is that if everyone's losing money at a sustainable rate, then yes, the league will be able to survive and catch that foothold that it so desperately is working incredibly hard to get in a linear fashion year after year. Having said that, I think sometimes owners can be their own worst enemies, so they all get competitive and they think, oh, I wonder if I spent, if how much more gets us a shield, right? So I think sometimes we're our own worst enemies within the competition, and create sort of artificial inflation. But I think there's some really good intellectual discussions happening at the league level to create some better infrastructure to make sure that the teams that you see in that image remain for a long time and hopefully get new additions to that group.
Yeah, for the league itself, though, just as a viewer, I would say the competition level has been increasing every single year. Just in the last couple of years, like a lot of teams have gone from sort of 50 or 60-minute teams to being full 80-minute teams. Do you think so?
Yeah. Yes. I think, yeah, you look at, how Chicago have developed. You look at NOLA's improvements recently. You look at DC's improvements. Utah, obviously, now are a much transformed team. Houston, what they transformed, they were, struggled to win a rugby game, and Miami are still pretty new to the league, as Anthem. LA have been competitive right from the outset, pretty much. So I think you're right. Like, there's a lot of parity, and the most parity probably ever. Like, I'm sure if you look back round 12 at the table standings year by year, there wouldn't have been this many teams in the playoff race in years past.
I think this is the year Anthem wins a game too. They keep getting so close, and almost every week you look and you're like, well, their final score would have beaten at least 3 teams this week, just not the one they were playing. So I don't know. I think it seems like all the arrows are pointing up for me.
I agree, and we agree here at the Free Jacks. We were desperate for that first one not to become at our expense. So we were very across our work that week to make sure.
Well, another thing you and I have talked about a lot is the ordeal of travel in this competition. So, and Phil and I have both praised you a lot for your knack for sort of smoothing over the difficulties inherent in traveling from, Boston to Seattle to Houston and so on. In the last, year or two, have you developed new techniques or new approaches for how you handle the effects of travel and minimize the impact on player welfare?
Yes, yeah, we have. I think taking on the expertise of some great practitioners like George Petrakos, who was our head of physical performance for 2 seasons. We've definitely got better and better each year at making our players experience an ability to perform on game day and to recover from the arduous travel better and better. Yeah, I think we're certainly known as one of the best traveling teams around the league, and our players we don't see it as a huge hurdle the way that other teams do. And I think we've also been helped by the fact that we do most of our travel early, so we kind of bite the bullet early while we're fresh, and that allows us to have these stretches of games like we do right now, 6 games, only 2 of them are away, and they're short travel trips down to Miami and New Orleans. Comparatively, so it sets us up for awesome back ends of seasons.
I love that. And completely lost my train of thought there. Oh well. Um, Obviously, the schedule is even tighter this year with the introduction of what I think of as Storm Week fixtures, to borrow a term from the NPC. So I've said it on the show many times, but I think you'll appreciate this. When the NPC's happening, I'm all for Storm Week fixtures. I'm like, yes, because it means I get an extra match to watch on a Wednesday morning. But as soon as they announced something similar in the MLR, I was like, what? How dare they? This is outrageous. What about player welfare? Like, for you, it must have made your job slightly harder. What was your reaction when the schedule was announced, and how have you been coping with these sort of extra squished in games?
Yeah, personally, I didn't like it. I didn't really understand why we needed to bring it into our competition, like you say. If you look at the NPC, it's a 9 to 11 week competition. Ours is nearly double that, and we don't have huge amounts of depth within Major League Rugby squads. So that was the initial response, and I certainly gave my opinion and stuff. But once the decision was made, we had to make the most of it, and we did a great job, I think, manufacturing a second bye week. We shifted around some of our games and made sure that right at the end of a 9-game block, essentially we played Anthem on Friday and then LA on Tuesday, and then the players had a week off. So it worked out quite well for us, and there were definitely more injuries in that game against LA, but funnily they weren't really players who had played back-to-back, and we had rotated our team significantly for that game. So I think we escaped unscathed. I'm not convinced that all other teams are going to, and they're not going to have such nice storm weeks as we had, which was really just two games in quick succession, and we were able to rotate the team. So yeah, it's a new challenge. It's going to be interesting. It may increase parity. It may give teams chances to win games they may not otherwise have won. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out, won't it?
Yeah, it was the Tuesday game. It was a close one. It turned into a really exciting one. First time all year, obviously, I've seen Q out in the stands instead of on the field. He had a big smile on his face. He must have been like, no 23 for me today.
Yeah, it has been cool. Like, I must credit our coaching staff, the way that they've been able to pre-communicate intentions around selection and load management to our players has been very, very good this season. So like you said, it results in smiles on faces, which is, the more of those, the more likely you're going to win some games.
TK, does your job get harder every single year? Like, on one hand, I can see parts of it getting easier simply because there's fewer surprises for you. You've kind of seen a lot. You've just got more experience to draw on. On the other hand, there's always new rules, like the schedule change we just talked about. Sorry, new laws. The schedule's different. Of course, there must be a target on your team's back simply by virtue of having won back-to-back championships. Is your job harder this year than it was the year before, and so on and on?
It's funny. I think it's a good question. And I think probably if I'm to answer honestly, the answer would be it depends, and largely on our staffing turnover. Like if this year we had a little bit of staffing turnover, but Ryan was coming back into the environment. We had a head of physical performance change, which is significant, and then a new forwards coach come in. So it takes a long time to get new staff up to speed, as it does players. And overall, though, we haven't had a lot of turnover, and we've got great medical staff, great support staff, a great new team manager actually who came on board. So I've probably found it, if anything, maybe slightly easier this season to be proactive and ahead of things. But I think it's just so circumstantial on the turnover, which is high in this competition.
Well, having a new team manager, that probably took a few things off your plate, right? That must have been like a little whew moment.
Really good. We've got this, his name's Jamie Sampson-Lizotte. He's local, played rugby at Lincoln Sudbury, went to UCSB and was the president of the rugby team out there. He's an avid golfer. He even got me onto the golf course the other week.
Santa Barbara sounds like a nice place to play rugby,
doesn't it? So he's been a great addition to our group. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So I'm gonna advance this guy. So another another thing you and Phil talked about was some of the struggles the Free Jacks had early in this season. You told a great story about how after a bad loss, it was to DC, rather than the coaches sort of ripping into the team and having a full, like, this is what you did wrong, this is what you need to fix session. Instead, you all just had like a massive pickleball tournament. So that was after the loss to DC. It's been 5 wins on the bounce since then. That kind of thing, that little choice to go for competitive fun rather than intense recriminations, like, that's a core tenet of this team, right? Like when Mags talks about Free Jack's core values and puts fun right there at the top, that's what he means, right? Like, how much do you think that sort of non-traditional approach is at the heart of this team's success over the history of this franchise?
I think hugely. I think it's a massive point of difference. The types of people we recruit to our value system, and what our club is about, and what we want our team to be about, and what our fans expect our team to be about. So I think hugely. How much can you attribute the success of the team to that? I think a large amount of it. As you know, Dave, we've had so many players come in and reinvent themselves, I think, within this team, like the likes of a Connor Keys and a Reece McDonald, and not guys that were household names before they got here. So mate, it's a collective effort, and that's the way, I love that about this club.
It really made, as a fan, you can just tell, like, it's a vibe. It's in the stadium. It permeates. Like when the players come through, there's smiles on their faces. Everyone's in a good mood. Like everyone's happy to take a picture afterwards. The interaction between the fans and the players, it's just always been great. And like, I feel like you all have been doing it right since the very beginning. This year, though, we've been bitten by the injury bug a little bit more than usual, it seems, at least. It's another thing you chatted with Phil about, but I got to ask you this. It's my understanding that artificial surfaces are rare in New Zealand. So from what I've read, they're never seen for cricket. And they're mostly only used for soccer and like for school grounds training. And I've also read that artificial surfaces may be inherently more dangerous than grass, depending on the type of sport, and rugby is on that list. I don't think the science is conclusive, but I know it's a commonly held belief. Do you think there's a connection between our injury list and our artificial pitch?
Relative to other years, I don't think that that obviously clearly that's not the different thing between this year and previous years. We definitely, you're right that in most rugby playing countries, perhaps not England and some of the European countries that do play on artificial turf, albeit they're often really nice surfaces compared to some of the Major League Rugby ones. It is a foreign thing. So players, when they first came over here, we found that they were picking up tendonitis, sort of tendinopathies and various tendon-based injuries. So our medical and strength and conditioning staff built out really comprehensive introduction to turf programs.
Wow.
Where they had guys doing a lot of eccentric loading through the tendons and prior to coming here. And Jason Potros was sort of he was the guy that really, 2023, he came over and got some pretty horrific Achilles tendinopathy, and we got him onto that program, and he kind of became the case study as to how to navigate the introduction. So it's a funny thing. I think once you're accustomed to it, it's generally pretty good. Having said that, yes, we've seen some, I think, ACL injuries we've seen on our turf. Peter Janssen, Kyle Sakira, Vian Conradi, although the last two were contact injuries, so perhaps not caused by the turf. I think this year too, Dave, we had a heavy injury list coming into this season, which we knew about. We had about 10 guys modified in various capacities coming in.
Oh, wow. For
example, Jack Reeves had just done his hamstring. We had, albeit not that severely, and we had Vian Conradi and Kyle Sakira coming back from ACL injuries. So what that did is it placed more load on the other guys that were training actively through preseason. So I think what we saw was those guys that were training had increased load relative to normal, and perhaps that may have played into some additional injuries above the norm. That was one thing. We were very conscious of that, though, throughout the preseason. We were trying to manage it to the best of our ability, but it certainly was a challenge.
Interesting. You actually kind of already answered the follow-up question I had here, because I was wondering, is that something that you talk to new players about, especially ones coming from New Zealand? Is it part of your job sort of explaining the differences, or does that cross the line into somebody else's purview, like you said, like the medical staff or the strength and conditioning?
Yeah, we do an introductory call, and we brief the players on the introduction to turf expectations and how important it is, and I think there's pretty good adherence from the players, and they get it done. So yeah, it's our S&C staff, which is great. They take care of that, and they've been really, really excellent.
So I want to be respectful of your time, and ironically, we haven't even talked too specifically about the Free Jacks season this year. So if you could go ahead and hit record for me, I'd appreciate that. But seriously, we've got Houston coming to town this weekend. That's going to be a tough one. They're on top of the West. They could be on top of, or they would be on top of the East as well. 6 days after that, we face the Pupsters of Chicago, another tough team, currently just 1 point off from us. Then we have to fly down to Miami again on just 6 days. We've got DC at home. We've got Seattle at home. We have a brutal final stretch coming up. Like, what are your priorities as you approach this vital part of the season?
So I think we've put ourselves in a position where the boys have just had a great week, a great bye week, and they're really fresh heading into this last block of 6 weeks. Like you said, we've got two trips to hot climates to overcome, and we've got some strong teams coming in, but we have the home field advantage, and they have to make for some of them cross-country trips out to New England at the end of the year, which you certainly don't really want to be doing. Yes, I think, mate, we've put ourselves in a great position to really just continue to build momentum. So that I think we've talked a lot as a staffing group around the fresher we can keep our playing group, the better opportunity we're going to have to go really deep into the competition. And I'm really proud of we've navigated, like you kind of touched on, a fair bit of challenge to date through this season, and we've been able to navigate it really well and got quite creative, and we've had to bring in some players, and we've had guys stepping up in all sorts of positions, and it's been really good to see. And mate, we've got a real good crack in front of us now.
Can you try to figure out a way that we can force Seattle to have to take like a Bolt bus all the way here? I feel like that would be a pretty big advantage.
Delay their flight somehow. I think Phil would probably have a few of the 1st Regiment that would be happy to pop the tires on the
By the way, there's some great rivalries that have kind of organically evolved in MLR, including us with Seattle. I don't know if you might not have an answer, or you might not feel comfortable giving it. Do you have a favorite rivalry with the Free Jacks? It used to be New York so simply, like that just of course automatically happens. Since then, is it DC? Is it Seattle? San Diego's up there?
Yeah, great question. Great question. You're dead right. It was New York, and no one else was close to that. And it's funny, DC have always considered us to be a rival, but we haven't really considered them to be a rival, with all due respect to them. I think for me, that Seattle one has actually sort of, they were putting out some marketing material around the rematch of the championship game. So I think that's organically, like you touched on, growing. But for me, I think maybe perhaps due to the fact you've got a few ex-New Yorkers that went to Chicago, I think the Hounds have picked up the mantle of being our real rival in the East for me. So that's the one that, if there was a club that I said that, I really wanted to make sure we got the better of, it would be Chicago.
In a lot of American sports, they love to talk about, that's locker room or chalkboard material or whatever, like, or bulletin board material. Sorry, where it's like a player from the rival team says something in the press, and the coach clips it out and puts it on the bulletin board so everyone sees it in the locker room. Do people do that in the MLR, or the players checking their Instagram and going, "Ooh, I can't believe Chicago said that"? Like, is it still a thing to have bulletin board material?
I think in some environments, yes. I think the Free Jacks environment's we've had quite astute coaches that haven't really bought too much into that sort of thing, and they've been more focused on our process and our performance. And having said that, there's a great story of Mike Rogers didn't really sort of buy into the New York Boston rivalry, and he was talking and then he spoke openly about it, and some people agreed with him, some people didn't, and naturally, and he was walking down that street in Quincy, and then the cleaner, one of the street cleaners said, "Oh, who have you got this weekend?" And he said, "We've got New York." And he said, "Make sure you beat those effing assholes." And it kind of just like clicked. I think he really became to understand, like, no, it's a real rivalry. You know, like, it's something that you've got to really respect. You can't lose to New York. So, but no, our group's been pretty good around just trying to, focus on our guys and also be respectful too.
Well, the first time you hear a crowd of Bostonians or New Englanders break into a chant of Yankees suck when they're not at a baseball game, that's how you know.
Yeah, and then the newspaper thing, that our fans did, reading the paper, like being bored by the opposition or whatever. Yeah. So good. So good.
By the way, you mentioned that 70% of our players from last season were retained this year, and we've added maybe 30% new. Well, not maybe. I'm pretty sure that's the math. Out of all those new players, like who is somebody who stood out for you? Maybe even more than one person. Who are some players who have you thinking, "Yep, I got it right with that guy"?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because like you said, it's a unique beast, Major League Rugby. So I think you see the best in players, not necessarily in their first year in the competition. You see that across the league wide. But if I was to pick some new players, I think Brock Webster has been outstanding on the wing and at fullback more recently. Both Falatoi Penny and Simon Peter Toliafoa have shown glimpses. Obviously, they've been a little bit held back by injury, but they've shown glimpses of what they're capable of. Sam Caird and John A. Karoi Duadua, as well as, they've been, and Connell McInerney, they're wise heads in our tight five, and you've probably seen a real shift in the quality of our set piece this season. So I think those three have definitely helped there as well. So mate, they're probably ones that come to mind. I think Harrison Boyle as well. He's a different player now to what he was when he was here the first time. So he's really stepped up for us.
Well, another one who's he's not brand new, and we have seen that exact kind of progress you're talking about. How fun has it been watching Jed Melvin turn into the player he's becoming? Like, I don't think he's close to his ceiling yet.
He's an outstanding rugby player. I was talking, Ryan Martin was telling me he's got no doubt he's Super Rugby quality. I think that's the cool thing about this club too, Dave. The ability to, we can really provide a platform and an experience to grow these players like a Mills Santorivi and a Samisi Pire, and see those guys kick on to Taniela Filamone as well, to Super Rugby level or URC level, and really follow their aspirations. So
Taniela got his first start for the Highlanders a couple of rounds ago, and he was great. In the very next round, all the comments we're talking about in the lead up to the match was him. It was great.
So good. So good. And there's going to be more and more stories like that continue to happen. It's just getting the right players at the sort of that right age bracket, the 23-year-old up and comers, I think.
Well, somebody who's not new at all, but I just love talking about him, and I just want to get your thoughts on him. Like, he's obviously not new. The last Men's World Cup, Squidge Rugby made one of his famous videos, and he talked about Namibia, and he specifically highlighted Fionn Conradi, and he said, that guy is going to get snapped up. Expect to see him playing in France or Japan next year. I almost dropped dead on the spot hearing that, but he stayed, and he's continuing to tear up trees for us. How fortunate are we to have a player like Fionn?
Yeah, very fortunate. He's unbelievably fierce competitor. Like, if you look at the statistics, week in, week out. He often carries near on 20 times, making near on 20 tackles and 4 to 5 dominant hits. He's just I think he probably is the most dominant player in MLR.
I really think so. And does that, does how good he is just kind of, he must have an aura. Does that transfer to the other players around him? Do they see his work rate and see how he approaches the game and think, I got to be like that?
Yeah, I think it is an aura. Joe Johnston spoke when Vian played his 50th this year, and they played a lot of rugby together, and I think he said something similar, that he can really feel when Vian's there with him. You just have real confidence that we're going up together and we're going to get them. So, yeah, he's a quiet guy. He leads by example. He is a true free jack, I guess you could say.
TK, I got to let you go. I really appreciate your time. I have one last thing for you. As you're keenly aware, we're going to be hosting a World Cup here in the States. It's not right around the corner, but in many ways it's closer than we seem to think. What's your assessment of the state of the game here in the U.S.? Do you see improvements? Do you have confidence we might be able to win a pool game or two? And what do you think should be the priority of USA Rugby for the next several years?
Yeah, my limited evaluation is that you can, from a men's capacity, at least, I can speak to. You see that long list, that USA Rugby long list that Scott Lawrence announced. There's a lot of players of a higher level, playing at a higher level now, and you've got guys qualifying from different nationalities to represent the US, which is a good thing because it helps the player pool. And I think we need it. We need the Rugby World Cup here. Just to throw the gas on the embers that are beginning to really build, but it's a big job, and it requires a lot of different organisations, entities, clubs, schools, universities to all do their part. And it does amaze me the amount of crossover athletes and stuff that are slowly emerging and coming through. Like, we've got Caleb Geiger, and you got Pono Davis at Houston, and like, the more guys like that get involved, the better. So mate, it's very exciting, and I think it is something that we do need, just to throw some gas on.
I have no stats to corroborate this, but it feels like the gains that are being made in the popularity of the sport right now, they feel permanent. This doesn't feel like when the Winter Olympics comes around, suddenly everybody's interested in curling and they forget about it 2 months later. I don't think this is that. I think Americans are going, oh, you know what? I like this. I want this.
Yeah. No, that's cool. And you would know that far better than I. So that's it's great to hear.
Tom Kindley, you are a scholar and a gentleman. Thank you so much for returning once again to the Scrum of the Earth. Any final thoughts for the hardcore Free Jacks fans? Like, what can we look forward to on Sunday?
Yeah, mate. Well, thank you so much for your time and for all your care and support of the Free Jacks and rugby. And this Sunday, it's going to be a cracker. They're a hugely physical team that are a club that's on the up, and it's going to be a great challenge for our boys to test ourselves and see where we are properly against one of the best teams in this comp this year. So I'd just encourage people to come along, and we've got 4 remaining regular season home games. They're all going to be epic. We're going to have huge attendances, and come and play your part.
Tickets are harder and harder to get. I went looking at a friend of mine was like, hey, any chance I can join you this coming weekend anywhere near your seats? And I looked, and the answer was no. There are no seats available in my section.
Wow. That's great. That's great to hear. And it's every game I look up and I look around when people flood the field, and I think, it's just a mate, like we have all these people. How have you come across this?
It's great too. In my section, it's a perfect microcosm of American fans, where the 2 guys on my right are both active coaches and former players, and they know some of our players and stuff. And the people on my left are just sports fans. They go to 6 Red Sox games a year, and 8 Celtics games, and 4 Bruins games, and every Free Jacks games. And as soon as the WER went on sale, they had Banshees tickets too. They schedule their lives around going to see sports, and neither of them know anything about rugby. They just love the experience.
That's so cool. Yeah. And that's the challenge for us, is just to keep enhancing that experience and making sure that when people do take a chance on us, that they love it and they want to come back. And it's special.
Oh, final side note. I know this isn't your department, but the next game is on May 4th, and the theme's not Star Wars. As a nerd, man, that hurts.
That one, eh? Yeah, marketing department. Missed that one.
Marketing
I'm
people are
sure there'll be
super
some lightsabers in the crowd, though.
We're still deciding, because it's hard not to like the heavy metal theme, but it's May the 4th.
Yeah, come on. And May 10th, I'm hugely pumped for. We're unveiling the alternate white Quincy 400 kit.
Oh, I love it.
In the flesh, and it's going to be celebrating that. It's a significant milestone for the city, isn't it? So it's going to be a very, very cool day out. Yeah,
I love that one. Okay, TK, my friend, thank you so much again for your time, your insights, and frankly for continuing to be the best GM in Major League Rugby. Every one of us really appreciates all your hard work. Cheers. Talk to you soon, and be well.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate you.
It gives me great pleasure to be here today.
Oh, it does, Nate. You want to tempt the wrath of the whatever from high atop the thing?